Hi guys, welcome to another Raw Talk session with me, Dolly Indigo Star. And today I have a really special guest with me, someone who contacted me actually and said to me, hey, Dolly, I'd love to connect with you. And I have this book. His name is Igor Oakwood, and he put this book in front of me to read, which is called Hallu-Cygns. And from the moment I have picked it up, I've not been able to stop reading it because it resonates with me personally so much. And I am the kind of girl that has no lead. I'm never led anywhere. I let it come to me. I don't go searching. I let things find me. And nothing is by coincidence, I like to say, in this life. And welcome, Igor, your book. It has literally blown me away. Please introduce yourselves to my audience and tell us a little bit about your book.
Well, thank you, Dolly, for this wonderful introduction. And well, it's certainly nice to hear that it blows your mind because, well, the story, what I'm writing about, is also blowing my mind, and that was the reason why I decided to write the book. Because, well, it actually it begins with my personal story of the last 22 years, which were so full of synchronicities, paranormal events, experiences that are almost comparable to an archetypal story like Arthur and the Sword of Excalibur and many other myths. So in most of these myths, you have that principal character, the hero, let's say, who has a special dream in which he is told to go on a quest for knowledge or for a sacred artifact. So this is what happened to me literally. And what I found was a real sacred knowledge, a secret knowledge that has been kept secret for many thousands of years. And that has remained in very small groups, like the Templars, for example, the Mionaya group, which I came across during the last years. And now this knowledge leads actually to the language of creation. So this is the title of my book, is Hallu-Cygns. And Cygns, it's written with C-Y-G-N-S for a special reason, because it is connected to Cygnus, the swan. Yeah, the swan in many of the Grail romances, for example, is not just an ordinary animal, but it's the guardian of the secret portal between life and death. And so logically, it's between the portal of life and death that we find, the language of creation, the deepest essence of reality. So this is, in short, where the book is talking about.
So what we're talking about here, we're not talking about a fictional experience. We are talking about a real experience that you've had, a real journey that you've been led to different pathways. And all along, you've been uncovering keys to the next part, let's say, to your should I say initiation or story?
You can definitely call it initiation. Indeed, it all started, like I said, 22 years ago with a kind of awakening into the knowledge of sacred languages. So it started with the runes and then the tarot cards. And then finally, a few years later, I got interested in the geometric glyphs appearing in the crop fields in England.
Yes.
So that was where it all started. Really.
You were out here in Wiltshire with Patty Greer, who I know and have interviewed a few times. I know Patty very well, astounding woman with magnificent work in the crop circle field. But you spent some time and had a really odd experience with Patty, didn't you?
Well, it was mind blowing indeed. You can see it in the movie on YouTube made by Patty. I was totally shocked. You know, when I see it back, that movie, it's kind of ridiculous to see myself in this state. But it was understandable that I was so shocked because, yeah, what I have seen and experienced a few days before was really mind blowing. So I'll try to tell this in a few short sentences. So you should know that we were there for 4 days in total to visit the crop circles, and I was there with my family and with a friend. Now, after 3 days, I was getting a little bit disappointed because I wanted to see UFOs or I wanted to discover something really special.
An experience. And you wanted the experience.
I wanted something, yeah, mind blowing.
Wow.
And there was really nothing.
Yeah.
So the third night, I ended up at a conference of a certain Andrew Collins. And Andrew Collins, I didn't know at the time, was talking about his new discovery of a tunnel under the Pyramid of Giza. So after the conference, which was quite interesting, we just returned to our camping place on top of Knapp Hill. So apparently what I didn't know at the time was that Knapp Hill was UFO hotspot.
Yes.
So when I came back, I saw many people standing there with tripods and with cameras ready to take pictures of whatever UFO or strange phenomena that they could take on picture. And so I said to my friend, let's take a walk, because my wife was pregnant then, and she needed to rest. So we start walking, and a few minutes later we come across a small group of people, and they tell us that they have seen 3 orange light balls. And so a little bit skeptic, I said to my friend, let's go, Dad, I want to see with my own eyes now. And so we just continue a few hundreds of meters, and then all of a sudden to our right, we see 3 orange light balls appearing just above the horizon. And so they come closer to us very slowly. And then, you know, when you see things like that, you can't explain it immediately. And
yes.
So to do the test, to test if these light balls are something living and something conscious, I just do a telepathy experiment. And in my head, I ask them, who are they? Who are you? And just at that moment, you can see these 2 of these light balls becoming bigger and brighter. And then all of a sudden, I can see arms and legs and a head appearing out of the light balls. So they are transforming into humanoid shapes. So luckily for me, there was my friend next to me, because otherwise I would have doubted my own eyes for the rest of my life, probably. But that was not the case. Now, this lasted for only a few seconds. And a few minutes later, we were back at the camping, and we were talking about this to all the other people, and they seemed to have less difficulty to believe what we saw than we ourselves. Because, I don't know, I was a little bit skeptic, so I just could not believe what we had seen. And the next day, I woke up, and there was a man next to my bed, and he says, oh, good morning. Well, I heard what you saw yesterday evening, and there is a woman waiting for you at the Avery hotspot for you to do an interview. And I'm a member of her crew, so you're awaited there, and she is called Patty Greer. And so definitely a few hours later we arrive at that Avery hotspot, and there is Patty Greer, and she asks us to explain the experience on camera. And that is why you see us on the small YouTube video from a documentary. Now, the most stunning part actually must still begin. Yeah, because Patty, she says, you know, Igor, it's not possible that somebody has called, somebody has spoken of me, because, you know, I just arrived here in Avery, and I didn't go to Eastfield or Elton Barnes. So there is one man together with me, and he's just standing next to me. So it's not possible. I said, I don't know, but anyway, the man spoke about you, and that is the reason why I'm here. But then she says, no problem, but because I have been living more different things with weird situations like this. So she
Yeah.
was kind of used to this kind of
Yes.
strange happenings. And said, no problem, we will do the interview. But then the most stunning part was actually afterwards. A few days afterwards, we were back in Belgium, and I started to see swans and geese everywhere I went. And this was so remarkable that after a few weeks and months even, I started to look for an explanation. So I started to look for explanations about swans and geese on the internet. And that is how I came upon a book that was called The Cygnus Mystery. And when I saw the name of the author of that book, it was Andrew Collins. So I said, this cannot be a coincidence. I mean, would that be the same Andrew Collins? And in fact, it was. It was the same man. And starting to read the book, well, he talks especially about the Cygnus Constellation, which was very important in the ancient mindset because that constellation of the Swan sits at the exact beginning of the dark rift. So the dark rift is a dark spot in the Milky Way, in the center, just near the center of the Milky Way, that has been venerated for thousands of years as the womb of creation. Because when you see the Milky Way, it's like a woman arcing over the heavens.
I get an arc with it. Yeah, I get the arc. And it's like almost as though I get it's connected to the Ark of the Covenant, the Ark of humanity, the arc of the galaxy, between all our realms and everything. Am I right in thinking this?
Well, the Ark of the Covenant would come later in the story because the Ark of the Covenant has to do with lightning, with the production of artificial lightning. And that is the essence of the technology that I discovered thanks to all these synchronicities. Now, first of all, I have to explain what the Cygnus constellation is important for.
Yes, please.
Because the Cygnus constellation, since it sits just at the beginning of the galactic womb, the entrance to the portal between life and death in the galaxy, well, it was venerated for many thousands of years, not only by the Celtic people, but also by the Mayans and by many ancient civilizations as the entrance to the underworld, the entrance to the portal between life and death. So this is one of the reasons why it is important. Now, I still couldn't see a link between the Cygnus constellation and the real life swans I was seeing since my close encounter with the plasma balls. So I decided to let the matter rest at that moment. So a few weeks later, like it's always the case, when you let the matter rest, something else comes to awaken you even further.
Yes.
And that was the case. So all of a sudden, there is that friend who comes on my door with a book. And he says, you know, Igor, I have this gift for you. I feel I have to give this book to you. And it was a book with visualization exercises. And when I did the first exercise of this book, I saw myself going through a cave of about 2 kilometers long. And at the end of the cave, more or less, after 2 kilometers going through it, we arrive at a subterranean lake. And just above the subterranean lake, my guide, who is a monkey in the dream, he points to a very small hole in the rock, just above the subterranean lake. And he says, when you go through it, when you go through this hole in the rock, you will arrive at your destination. And so in the dream, I go through it, and I find myself in a completely different landscape with palm trees and with light balls flowing around. And in the exercise, it says that I should keep on looking around me. And as I do so, I see that on my right side, there is a man sitting down with long gray hair and who is looking to me and smiling to me. And so I approach that man and I'm asking him if he has a special message for me. But he just keeps on smiling and he transmits a message to my mind, just saying that I have to choose between the monkey bridge before him to go to the other side of the valley or returning to the cave behind him. And so while I'm hesitating between the two, the dream stops. So that was it. That was all. Now, strangely, the next day I go to work and I told this dream to a friend who was dying. Actually, it was a man of 65 years old who was dying, who had a muscular disease, and he says, after hearing my dream, Igor, you know, I have the feeling that this place of your dream, it exists in real life, and you should look for it. And he says, I know where you have to look for it. And he says it's in the Canary Islands. You know, it's not only Tenerife, it's not only Gran Canaria, but there are also very small islands which are very green and with wildlife, and where you can find many caves. And so we decided to go on holiday there a few months later. And after 10 days, at a certain moment, we are completely lost in the jungle. Me, my wife, and my children. And all of a sudden, we hear children's voices. And as we follow the children's voices, we see there is a small wooden house with a child. The child is looking to us, and who invites us to come further. And when I go up these stairs, and when I arrive at the entrance of the wooden house, I see a man just next to it with gray long hair sitting, and who says to me, "Oh, welcome, I'm waiting for you." And so immediately I recognize the same man as in my dream, you know, with the long gray hair. And he says, "I'm waiting for you because since a few days I'm praying and meditating here and asking that somebody would come here who would want to rent this house, because I'm leaving to the other side of the island. And it would be nice to leave this house to somebody who can connect to this energy." And I said, "I think you found it." But as I was thinking that I was dreaming, I looked around me and I see exactly the same image as in my dream, you know, with the palm trees, the valley, and all came into place. And so we decided to move to that spot a few months later. And that was how a new chapter in our life was starting.
Amazing.
Yeah. That's amazing, but it's only the beginning of the story, of course.
I know, it's absolutely astounding, your story. And you also mention who I also have a deep connection to, Drunvalo Melchizedek. And the timing that you had your experiences and reading Drunvalo Melchizedek, but you actually had an encounter with somebody that was connected to him, didn't you?
Yes. That was while I was having the close encounter with the light balls. There was one question that came up. And that question was that I had 3 questions to ask. And with these 3 questions, I would have to solve all the mysteries of the universe. And that was something that was transmitted to me in a dream. And in that dream, it was Drunvalo's wife who was talking to me. It was a very special moment when I was communicating with Drunvalo about his book. It was during a few weeks. I sent him a few mails. And all of a sudden, he didn't send me any mails back anymore. But instead, he sent me a dream. And that dream was actually his wife talking to me, and who said to me that I had 3 questions to ask. And with these 3 questions, I had to solve all the mysteries of the universe. So when I am in the middle of that close encounter with the 3 plasma balls, I'm thinking that the question I ask now is very important. I don't have much time to ask. So the question must be the one question that with which I have to solve the mystery of the universe. So the only question that came up was, "Who are you?" And that was when they transformed into humanoid beings. And when I heard this sentence in my head that we are you in some way. So this is when I understood that these plasma balls, actually they entangle with your consciousness. So they take up any form that is translatable, that is understandable by your own subconscious.
Yes.
So it's kind of a communication that we still don't know much about in this civilization of ours. But I believe that this kind of communication was very known in Neolithic times. And it was even used and produced through megalithic constructions. So I believe megalithic constructions all over the world, like pyramids and temples, special temples, were aimed at harnessing bioelectricity, lightning, in a way that we could communicate with it. So it's quite complicated to explain. So this is why
we're talking
materials to explain my theory.
Quantum physics and sacred geometry. As I'm talking about all this, and we're talking, my laptop's going absolutely loopy, all static and things like that, which doesn't surprise me, because we are talking on a really high vibrational frequency level, and that has a lot to do with this, because people of a certain flow and frequency seem to be able to understand in depth this information that is being able to be now delivered to humanity at this crucial time. Do you believe that too?
Yes, of course. We are living in apocalyptic times, as I call them. Now, apocalypse means revelations. And now we are living in a time when there is a lot of people awakening. So a lot of people have revelations, not only revelations psychically, but also through the internet. There is a lot of information shared now on the internet. And many people are making connections now that have never been made before. So this is really important. And I guess that the computer world, the digital world, is somehow connecting with human consciousness in this way. So it can be frightening for some people, and it is a little bit for me as well. But I guess we have to use the digital world in the most positive way possible.
Yes. Absolutely. So your plasma beings, meeting these balls of light, and I say plasma beings because I've met the plasma beings, so I know straight away and can resonate with what you're describing. But for our viewers, describe what you saw when you saw these balls of light transform into humanoid beings. Describe what you saw.
To describe is one thing. I would love to show it literally, yes, but that's not possible, unfortunately. So you can best compare them with 3 orange light balls of like a football, like a soccer ball, who are floating very slowly towards me, and just at the moment that they feel that I'm talking to them, they react. They react by transforming into these humanoid shapes, just as an answer to my question, who are you? And then they just answered, we are you. We can be anything you want. That was actually the essence of the message. So these humanoid beings, they just hang there for a few seconds, and then it just disappeared. So what only lasted for a few seconds would have life-altering consequences for the rest of my life. So yeah, it was amazing. It's mind-blowing. And you know, in the beginning, I was feeling like I'm the only person in the world who has seen such things. But then a few years later, I write about these experiences to Andrew Collins. You know, it was the man who told me whose book I was writing, I was reading, and he answers me immediately by sending me his newest book, and that was Light Quest. And in this book, Light Quest, he speaks about other witnesses who have seen exactly the same things as I did at exactly the same spot in Wiltshire, just near Silbury Hill. And what is even more stunning, he asks me to send him a drawing of what I've seen. And in that drawing, he says, you know, look to the drawing of these other witnesses. And when you put these 2 drawings next to each other, they are exactly the same. But even more stunning was that also these other witnesses, they seem to become obsessed with swans. And that is the moment that he compares artwork of these other people with artwork that I was doing on the mural in my home. And it's just crazy. How is this possible? How can these light bulbs have something to do with real life swans or with an obsession with swans? So that was the first question, of course. And that is how I started to dive deeper into the material, and that I started to tell the story in the new cave, because I didn't tell that after our experience in La Gomera, after 9 months, we decided to return to Belgium. But now we were moving to the south of Belgium. And after a few weeks, we find a spot, which is a very nice spot, and which is known for a very famous cave in Belgium. And this cave is called the Boeing Cave. Now, when I told the story to some people, to some new colleagues, because I started working there as a tourist guide, well, after a few days, I received a telephone call of a local journalist. And that journalist, she asked me if I want to do an interview with her, because she was making a documentary about Flemish people like me who were living in the southern French-speaking part of Belgium, which I said, no problem. And she came to me at my home the next day, and she listens to my story about the dream, about the Canary Islands and all these things, and about the swans. And then all of a sudden, she asks me when exactly I had that dream. And then I answered, it was July 2012. And then she answers me, Igor, in July 2012, in the Boeing Cave, where you are working now, there was a theater piece, and that theater piece was called The Dream of Igor. And so the Dream of Igor, in the theater piece, the principal character was Igor, and he believed so much in his dream that it came true. So this was probably the experience that blew my mind the most.
Yes, mind-blowing, absolutely. And this cave, tell me more about this cave, because as you know, I myself am on that quest at the moment in the cave. Yes. So tell me more about the caves.
Well, nice, because it's the most beautiful cave in Belgium. Nobody will discuss this. It's a cave that is very connected to the Cygnus Constellation. Okay. Also, the name of the cave is the Boeing Cave. So in French, we call it Le Massif ou la Grotte de Boeing. And the Boeing Cave, Boeing is actually the name of a Celtic goddess. In around the cave, thousands of years ago, there were Celtic tribes living there and practicing a special cult related to the swan, to the Cygnus constellation. So all the thousands of artifacts that archaeologists are still finding there at the exit of this cave prove that there has been a cult connected to the swan.
Cosmically, a cosmic connected cult.
Yes. And because Boeing, the name of Boeing is the Celtic goddess, it means white cow. So still today in England, we have the Temple of Newgrange. Have you heard about the Temple of Newgrange?
Yes, I have, yes.
Yes, it's a very ancient temple. It was built like 5,000 years ago. And it's called in Celtic the Bruna Boyne. So the Bruna Boyne means the womb of the white cow. So the womb of the white cow was also the womb of the Milky Way, the dark rifts. So this temple was connected to the dark rift in the Milky Way. Now, when I was learning this resonance between the Boeing Cave and the Boeing Temple and the Milky Way, I had this idea to compare the subterranean passage of the river through the hand cave with the Milky Way. And when you do this, well, you see exactly the same reflection. You can see the Milky Way making an arc, splitting in two, and just at the beginning of the split, at the beginning of the dark rift, you have the Cygnus Constellation, as I said before. Now, when you do this in the hand cave, you have just the same thing. You have the river splitting in two at the same moment, at a certain moment in the cave. And it is there at that exact point where the subterranean lake is, where the monkey in my dream showed me the hole in the rock just above. And when you go in the cave, it is exactly there that the river splits in two. And when you go there now, today, in this cave, well, it is exactly at that spot in the ceiling that you see a long crack, a crack in the rock. Just next to the crack, in two directions, you can see two wings, which are literally making the shape of a swan in flight. So it's exactly the same shape as the constellation of the swan. So you can not believe how this is possible. No, it's natural. It's just a natural cave creating itself as a reflection of the Milky Way and with the Cygnus constellation. So I can only understand, I can hardly understand how this is possible. And so this is really mind-blowing.
And you've had people contact you, haven't you, and want to take them into the caves. You've had people of importance contact you from a certain tribe, was it, that you went in there with? That spoke an older language. You was talking about that they spoke one of the oldest languages, and you'd spent some time with them showing them around the caves, or have I got it completely wrong?
Well, it's indeed a story because I'm organizing special tours inside the cave around the theory of my book. And there was a woman once who started to talk Atlantean. But I don't know if that is what you're talking about.
I'm not sure. I'm sure that we mentioned that somebody that you had connected with, you'd taken them into the caves and they had started speaking to you in the oldest form of language that there was. I'm not sure whether there was an Atlantean or a Diluvian connection, but hey, I could have picked that up and because that's how my world is. I synchronize and can see when you're telling me a story. I can feel and I can see and put myself there.
Well, it would not be the first time that somebody tells me things that they are not supposed to know. Apparently you come up with things you aren't supposed to know, but it's true. There was a woman who spoke Atlantean, but I think you remember me of something else, because there has been a psychic communication done to me and Andrew Collins at a certain moment in time, and that was in 2015. So it was when we were living near the river, just next to the cave, when the swans were passing in front of our house every day, that I took up the same research again into the swans. And that was the moment that I started to communicate to Andrew Collins. And a few months later, I woke up with a very special word resounding in my mind, and that was Xeniton, or Xeniton 9, Xeniton 10. So it's a word that doesn't say anything at first view. But I knew instinctively that this was really important. And I write to Andrew Collins about this term, and he answers me that he thinks it could be related to his own research. So you should know that in 2015, the astronomical community in the world was alarmed by the activity of a very special star in the Cygnus constellation. And that star is called Tabby's star. Yeah. Tabby's star because it was discovered by Tabitha Boyayan. And Tabby's star, why was it so special? It was because she expressed some very irregular light dips. So the astronomers, they couldn't make any sense of it. Now, Andrew Collins, because it was in the Cygnus constellation, and since he is one of the big pioneers in the world regarding everything that has to do with the Cygnus constellation, has started to follow and to study the light dips expressed by Tabby star. And so all of a sudden he answers me that the star's numerical communications were pointing to the numbers 11 and multiples of 11.
So like 11 multiple.
11, 22, 33, and
2,
all
2,
multiples.
3, 3, 3. That makes sense, yes.
That makes, well, at first view, it didn't make any sense. But he told me that until now, he and his friend Rodney Hale, his friend, an engineer, with who he was studying these light dips, they told me that this structure, this 11-based structure, is actually known today as Pascal's triangle. Now, Pascal's triangle, indeed, when you see it, it's like a triangular structure of numbers, and at the edges, you always see the numbers 1. So it's always L even 11.
Yes, yes.
And he says that the last 2 numbers sent by Tabby Star were 132 and 42. And he says that these 2 numbers can be found in the 9th and the 10th row of Pascal's triangle. And he says this can have something to do with my Xeniton 9, Xeniton 10 message. And so I start to study this kind of information, and indeed I see that this is all connected. It's really difficult to explain this without visual material, but it comes down to the fact that Pascal's triangle was not only known today by modern scientists, but it was venerated by all ancient civilizations as the Mount of Creation, as the primordial mount rising out of the waters, as the matrix of creation, actually. And so this is what took my interest, because when these 2 numbers, 132 and 42, are found in the 10th dimension of this matrix, well, they also form the number of pi, because when you divide 132 by 42, you have the number pi.
Pi, yeah.
Yeah, pi, it's the resonance between the diameter and the circumference of a circle.
Exactly. So everything correlates and connects.
Everything correlates and connects with this 10th dimension. So you have this resonance point in the 10th dimension of this numerical structure in the Mount of Creation, in the Vedic Mount Meru. So why is this important? Because also in geometry, you can see exactly the same resonance. Because I'll try to explain. I hope
sacred geometry. It's okay. I'm okay. It's the viewers that we need to take care of here and explain it as beautifully as you can. Okay,
I'll try. So when you make a circle with a diameter of 9 units, 9 equal units.
Yeah.
So you take 9 small circles and you put them next to each other.
Yes.
You have a diameter of 9 small circles.
Yes.
So you make a circle around these 9 small circles.
Yes.
Then you have a circle with diameter 9. When you put one of these 9 circles and you put them one at each side of the circle, you have 11 circles. Now, what is so special is that these 2 new small circles that you put at the ends of the diameter of the circle, well, the center points, they make up the squares, of the points of a square that has exactly the same circumference as the circle.
That's going to blow everybody's minds. They're going to be like, ah!
I know. So it's really difficult. You should take a look at my website, because this is where I show this resonance.
I was going to say, what we will do is I will put details to your website and your book, which is absolutely astounding. I mean, we've talked about just a little fragment of parts, what is in your book and your whole journey, which is phenomenal and astounding. And we'll put the links for the book in there as well. But I want to let you talk a little bit more and explain a little bit more about these caves and the light beings in your book, and more of what's happened in this book, because there's more to it, isn't there? There's a lot more to it.
Well, there's much more to it indeed, because it all has to do with the language of creation, as I told you.
So the language of light, are we talking about the language of light? Because when I hear the language of creation, it's the language of light to me. It's something that we can't speak or hear or
well, we
see.
can't speak it.
It's a vibrational frequency that is an essence as such.
Well, indeed, yeah. It's the language of creation. It's not languages that we use to speak to each other, of course.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
you have well understood, of course.
Yeah.
We're talking about frequencies, and frequencies, they're pure sound and pure light, indeed. Now, in order to understand how this language of creation was used by megalithic civilization, you have to understand that the Earth has certain dimensions. And due to these dimensions, there are also sounds, infrasounds that are created by the Earth, by the sun, by the moon, by the interactions of all these things. And these sounds, they express themselves through certain notes on the surface of the Earth.
Yeah, in a harmonic, like a melody as such.
Like a melody, like ripples. When you throw a stone in a lake, you have these rings of resonance that are going out. So this is the easiest way how you can compare it, because on the surface of the Earth, you have 33 points of resonance. And these 33 points, these resonance points, they can be used for harnessing this energy, because this is why sacred geometry is so important, because sacred geometry, it is built on top of these nodes in a certain way, in certain geometries that concentrate the geoacoustic energies into bioelectricity using special kinds of crystals. You know, in the pyramid of Giza, for example, there are a lot of microcrystals encrusted in the blocks, in the stones. And these microcrystals, they transform the geoacoustic energy of the Earth in bioelectricity. So when this pyramid is active, unfortunately, there has been going on something 12,000 years ago, due to which this planetary wireless network of temples has crashed. So it's not working anymore. But I can imagine that at a certain time it was working, and it was used to transform geoacoustic energy into plasma, into lightning. And it was used for initiation, not only for making tools to work like we do today with electricity. No, it was also used, and especially used, for spiritual initiation. And the plasma balls that I've been seeing, that I've been contacting, they are lightning. You know, plasma is lightning, and they transmitted the same knowledge, this lightning knowledge, to me in only a few seconds. And this is how I came across this kind of knowledge. So you could call it the Holy Grail that was lost since many thousands of years. Now, can you imagine that in megalithic times, every person in the world was able to undergo this kind of initiation? Can you imagine a world in which every person
highly tuned,
is completely, perfectly tuned to the highest levels of creation? We are so far from this world today. This is why it is important to share this information.
It is. It's absolutely mind-blowing. And this is what I've said is this book that I'm reading. I'm only like about, I think I'm on page 90. So I've done really well, haven't I? Because there's like about 384 pages in this book, 400 pages to read. There's so many chapters to this book and understanding, but every chapter that I'm reading has a renaissance that makes sense on so many levels. And you talk a lot about frequencies and how the Earth has gone through this transformation since 2012, a transitional period where since 2012 we've now gone into a different phase of learning, understanding, absorbing information, sharing information, energy, how we use it, how we're looking at the planet, life itself. Many people thought it was the end of the world. And I love the way that you use the word apocalyptic so beautifully, in another sense of meaning change, transition, a different cycle, a different period. So do you believe, Igor, that these places on the earth are still highly activated today?
Well, until now, there is only one place that is still really, really active, and that is in Bosnia, the Bosnian pyramids. Now, there are still more active places in the world, but the temples and the pyramids that have built upon it, well, there is no many pyramids that are still active. And the only one I know I've came across was in Bosnia. And I talked to Mr. Osmanagic, and he took me out in these tunnels and above, on top of this pyramid, and he showed me the instruments that really measured a beam of electromagnetic energy of 28,000 hertz.
Wow.
Can you imagine standing on top of a pyramid where a beam of 28,000 hertz is coming out? I could feel it, yeah, and in the tunnels under the pyramid complex as well. So I know there is a lot of skepticism going around against these Bosnian pyramids, but I can assure you, if you go at the place itself, it is true. It is tangible.
This is why. Yes, this is why I asked you, because the Bosnian pyramids that are out there that are said to be active, and a couple of people have taken pictures that have been floating around there, and then we get people coming forward saying, "Oh, it's Photoshop, it's this, it's that." It's not. This pyramid was really active. It's still active. So what do we think that's going on there that's different from all the other pyramids?
Well, it's something that I discovered now only recently, and I've been sending to Dr. Osmanagic a few days ago, is that apparently this pyramid of the sun of Bosnia is exactly pointing to the Cygnus constellation again. So it's on the exact latitude on the Earth, on which you can say that the Cygnus constellation, and especially Deneb, the tail star of the constellation of the Swan, is exactly in the zenith position above the pyramid at once in 24 hours a day. So this could mean something. This is really important, because something interesting that I came across, again thanks to Andrew Collins, was that apparently there has been discovered a very special particle, a hyper-energetic particle inside the Earth that is called the Cygnet. Oh. And the reason why they call it the Cygnet is that it is ejected by a neutron star in the Cygnus constellation. That neutron star is called Cygnus X3. So it's one of the most important sources of gamma radiation here on Earth. Now, what is so special about the Cygnet is that it is captured inside crystals. And according to Andrew, it is possible that when these crystals inside the crust of the Earth are excited due to tectonic movement or pressure, it makes electricity. It produces electricity. So when you excite crystals, they produce
like
electricity.
Friction, yeah, like an electromagnetic friction.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he explains that when these electric flames are mixing with gases in the atmosphere, you have an electrified gas which forms a plasma ball.
Wow.
When you remember that these cygnets being trapped in these crystals become activated in this process, then you have a cygnet-induced plasma ball. And he believes that these cygnets, they could be the particles, the God particles, which scientists have been looking for since a few tens of years. And this is what I believe as well. So when I speak about Hallu-Cygns, I speak about these signets. For me, these signets coming from the Cygnus X3 portal, they are, for me, they are kind of a natural pixel, the pixels that make up natural reality in our world. And so what is another linguistic resonance we can say is that it is called the signet, because signet, we call the word sign, to give signification.
Yeah, significant. I was going to say signifies. Yeah.
Talk to me about the word of creation.
Yeah, significance. It all goes together in that.
Indeed. Indeed. So now the circle is closed. The circle is round. You know, the signets, they are the word of creation. And isn't it even more mind-blowing that a place in the Milky Way that has been venerated for many thousands of years as the portal between life and death, now also scientifically seems to hold the portal Cygnus X3 that sends the code, the Pascal's triangle, as the code for the portal between life and death. You know, because Pascal's triangle is the mound of creation, which in the 10th dimension of it holds the portal between life and death. That is the message I got through, and which is explained much more in detail in my books and on my website, and which is very difficult to explain without visual materials.
Well, we'll try and back some up to this, what we've been talking about today, but absolutely fascinating and astounding. And I'm going to have you back because I think we've run for about an hour now. And I think what we've talked about for an hour so far is going to leave the viewers like, what? And absolutely astounded. So I'm going to have you back and we're going to talk some more about some of the things that you know and some of the things that you've experienced. And we're going to put the links down there to your book. And do you want to tell our viewers your website, where they can find you? And
of course, yeah, the name of the website is www.hallu, so it's written HALLU, and then Cygns is written CYGNS.com.
See, the name is amazing, and it actually means holy signs, doesn't it?
You got it.
It does. But I'm going to leave that for the viewers to get this book themselves. And it has been an absolute pleasure talking with you today, Igor. And I know I'm going to be coming out there to check these caves out with you. And I'm definitely going to be making it out there to Belgium on my travels. But I'm also going to have you back for another Raw Talk session and explain more for our viewers, because I know they're going to want that. Thank you so much for joining me.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, Dolly. Thank you very much to you.
You're welcome.